Hi, Heroine Church. I believe your pain is really happening, this mental anguish. But taking you as a cautionary tale is a complicated thing. Anybody my age probably knows a few people uh, from their past that didn't make it through their teens or 20s, based on overwhelming thoughts like that. And in my case, myself and most all my friends I've ever had personally dealt with things like that, and we definitely know people that didn't make it to the other side. And that's tragic, and I would be tragic if that were to happen with you. Um, and it's risky behavior and all kinds of things that come with that. So the cautionary tale would more likely be, if you were one that didn't make it, would be not to ever take any period of your life any more seriously than you have to, than you absolutely have to. This makes it easier to accept things in your life. In skepticism, Pyrrhonistic skepticism, not that I invented, but the original real Pyrrho, Thales, the philosopher, he says that the way to be satisfied is to accept things. Of course, the part that is a bigger problem is things you just can't stomach accepting, right? Now, I know one difference between me and you, and also let me bring in Fadia, is the calculation of a desire and what they really mean. I mean, you guys are like hope for the stars, it seems like to me, right? You just hope for the stars. So, like, if you're hungry and you go to the Olive Garden, like Let I Return says, to Fadia, you've just satisfied a desire to need to go to a restaurant. And if Olive Garden, comically, the example of a nice restaurant, whatever. No insults to Olive Garden fans. I have them in my family. It's great, I guess. I've never been. Breadstick. Okay. But anyway, that, you had an expectation for that. No matter what you do, you go to the fanciest restaurant. Well, you just satisfied a need to go to the best restaurant ever. And that's like, what? I don't grok perceiving that as a kind of a desire in that sense. I mean, to me, okay, it's more like I'm homeless and I'm hungry and I start fantasizing about a steak and I'm walking along and somebody invites me to their barbecue and gives me 3 hot dogs. I'm freaking ecstatic. That's great. I don't measure what I'm eating relative to my desire that way. My needs. See, you could only possibly mistake a desire fulfillment for a need fulfillment if all your needs are so obediently kept, satisfied, that it becomes difficult, that your needs erode. Like, I don't want to eat dinner. Oh, I gotta eat dinner. Gotta drink some water. Oh, I want some Kool-Aid. Bad example, Kool-Aid. Okay, but I don't mistake those two. To me, it's so very different. And to have a desire, when you have a need, your desires will grow up great. And if you just satisfy the need in the most minimal way, all the rest of those desires are like, yeah, steak, that's what I meant. It was like, but the rest of the brain's going like it was a hot dog. But it's kind of, whatever, it's close. It's a steak for my purposes. Right? I don't see measuring. I'm more curious and trying to find out what is possible and out there. Nobody ever convinced me. They did try to fool me, tell me how much of a rainbow world I was living in, but I could see that wasn't true. So nobody successfully, fooled me into thinking that, you know, that the universe is measured compared to alleged desires. I don't even believe we know what we want until we get it. And you think you want something, and it turns out that's imaginary. That isn't what you really wanted. You wanted something real, so you had to find out what it really was, and it's not like you imagined. Hello? Find out what you want. Stop telling the world what you want, and then measure your sadness in relation to your fantasies that aren't real. What? To me, this is like, no wonder that's a miserable way to go. But the real world, like, if you imagine in your head the most wonderful flavor ever, and now you're gonna go try to find it, huh? You have to explore new flavors. The flavor you imagine is some flavor from your past, or some sort of composite constructive flavors you've experienced. You want to find the ultimate flavor ever. You're going to have to go explore. It's not. And then you taste this new flavor that's awesome, and you're like, but it's not what I desired. Is that. That's not how you'd be, right? Do you think that kind of case through? The exploration and finding, and the fact that you don't really know what will make your life good. You don't know. Part of the problem is you think you know what would make your life good, and it's impossible. Well, it obviously is not what would make your life good if it's impossible. But for you to conclude that therefore it's not possible for your life to be good is just simply an error. But I try not to be presumptuous and say that you're bound to make it through this, or that you should want to survive, or any of those sorts of things. I admit the fact that my desire for you to survive is, selfish. I'd miss you if you were gone, but you might bore of YouTube and be gone, and I'd miss you if you're gone that way too, right? So it's rather impersonal, my missing you, because that's a pretty big difference for you, and comes down to the same thing to me. So sorry, but I'm way across the world through an internet too, So it is selfish, but it's sincere. The lesson would be that, hey, look how seriously you can take a stage of your life. Look how difficult it can be to accept reality and come to peace with it. And the really hard part that the Buddhists could tell you is, if when you do by chance come to peace with things as they are, lo and behold, then they change. But not necessarily in a better direction. I'm not trying to fool you into enjoying this bucket ride. But I do. And it's not your place to tell me not to. And you also are mistaken if you think it's a lack of examples and experiences to know why it's difficult. It's the opposite. So the more difficult life is, if you survive it, the more it's like the little stuff is like, what? I expected ketchup on my hot dog and I didn't get. It's not a misery. It's just is a nothing. That's why, like, who was it? I guess Hannibal was talking about, or was it Luddite? Someone about not even, Luddite, that not even counting a minor desire like hunger or something as a negative. To me, that's just like, my alarm went off. Is it a negative? Well, no, I bought the thing to wake me up to go to work, It's just not a negative. A little bit of hunger, that's like, oh, that's telling me I should probably eat. Which I usually ignore because I don't have that much hunger, so when I notice one, that's nice. Useful. So, yeah, I mean, every part of life is a stage. You know, I teased you a little about youth because you tease us about being fat and old and this kind of stuff. So screw that, you know. But I tease you a little about youth, but you get to be young. So fuck you. That, you know, that's your problem. I think you can handle it. But on the other hand, you know, it's the same in all cases. It's not just because you're young. Everybody's going through a stage of life, and I always see this. And I don't think the stages are linear in order. And I believe stages I've been through that other people are just now getting into, they've been through stages that I have never been through, that I may or may not get to in my own life, right? But you can see patterns, and it's hard to make concrete predictions on them, but you can make some. And so you're going through a stage and a kind of mood that to me is not entirely unknown. You know, I've seen a lot of cases, representative cases for caution and stuff, and a whole summation of many of them together, and mostly what I see is a lesson about taking life more seriously than you have to, because you see, you do have to take life seriously. So if you don't take it any more seriously than you have to, it's still going to be taken seriously, but just not so over seriously. Yeah, and my comments about your potential or incisiveness of certain parts of your thinking, despite the distortion, none of that is a guarantee of anything. I'm not saying it makes your life worth living or good or that you'll make it through. I hope you do. When I first started talking to you, I definitely was trying to detect, well, how likely suicidal is this person, because I don't want to take a chance. And so I've already made a sort of a bet that you are at least responsible for yourself, and then nothing will happen to make, you know, to make me feel that I've endangered you. So, you know, that could have, you know, it's a risk, like life itself, right? But I do fully acknowledge it's your right, and you have to make that right, you know, regardless of its effect really on anybody else. Ultimately, if you don't make it without regard to other people, then good on you. I think that's responsible and good. But that's still your decision to be broad-minded and think of other people in this decision. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? You're investigating these things. I do think it's distorted, kind of probably by hormones even and stuff, but not to be too insulting, trying to lighten up on that. But, you know, you are young, you're just starting a first round of serious adult experiences, and various things are going on always, but, you know, also you're at a particular point. And, you know, it might dip down so low you can't take it, but you just have to realize a lot of people go through incredibly intense experiences, think they can't handle them, and do, and grow from them. And, you know, you look like you're exploring this domain. And so, you know, that's what I'm seeing. I'm sorry, I know subjectively that you're in the middle of your actual experience and you're feeling it and not just witnessing it. So, yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't mean to minimize or discount that. On the other hand, when you come and vent online, I mean, you invite us to, you know, like if you're going to call us old and drunk and fat, yeah, I mean, I could point out that you're, you know, young and hormonal and petulant or whatever. I mean, if you don't want that, just be more mature on your side. Or, I mean, I'm actually not saying be more mature. I think just be yourself, man. Be yourself and see what kind of responses it gets you. And I might be the only one, who knows. But, you know, I will keep adjusting my reaction to you as, you know, your actions adjust, and so on and so forth. So, I don't want to make light of your situation, but on the other hand, if I really have a positive contribution to it, it's that from where I sit, you just seem like an intellectually curious youth with a lot of petulance and a strong intent to challenge ideas that are out there, which I consider healthy. So I can see why you're annoying some people, so they totally disagree with my assessment. But that's the way it is, man. It's everybody has to live with it. Okay, cheers.